The open sea, once considered a place of adventure and discovery, has become an arena of unexpected danger. Orcas, known as the apex predators of the ocean, are targeting boats with increasing frequency and aggression. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a disturbing trend that's leaving sailors shaken and experts baffled. Let's dive into the shocking and horrific reality of orca attacks at sea. On July 29, 2020, off the coast of Galicia, Spain, a 12-meter yacht named Mirfak was peacefully sailing when it suddenly lost steering control. The cause? A pod of orcas ramming the vessel's rudder. The two-person crew sent out a distress call, and the boat had to be towed to port for repairs. This incident marked one of the first widely reported aggressive orca encounters in the region, setting the stage for what was to come. Just 2 weeks later, on August 14, 2020, another incident occurred near Porto, Portugal. The 14.2-meter yacht Rastion was surrounded by 9 orcas. For 45 minutes, the animals battered the boat, causing significant damage to the rudder. The crew of 4 was eventually rescued by the Portuguese Coast Guard. This attack showcased the coordinated nature of these orca pod assaults, a pattern that would become all too familiar in the months to come. The frequency of attacks escalated rapidly. On August 30, 2020, near Barbate, Spain, the yacht Aventura Plus fell victim to a particularly aggressive encounter. A pod of 5 to 7 orcas targeted the vessel, focusing their attacks on the rudder. The impact was so severe that the boat's steering system was completely destroyed. The crew of 6 had to be towed to safety, their voyage cut short by this unexpected marine assault. September 2020 saw a flurry of incidents. On September 11th, the sailing vessel Freedom Will was attacked off the coast of Cape Trafalgar, Spain. The orcas struck with such force that the boat's rudder shaft was bent, rendering it inoperable. The following day, September 12th, 3 separate attacks were reported in the Strait of Gibraltar. One of these involved the yacht Cuckoo X, which had its rudder snapped clean off by the force of the orca assault. As autumn progressed, the attacks showed no signs of abating. On October 4, 2020, the 14-meter catamaran Kvitfiel was targeted near A Coruña, Spain. The orca's assault lasted for over an hour, leaving the vessel with significant damage to its rudders and keel. This incident highlighted that even larger, more stable vessels like catamarans were not immune to these aggressive encounters. The year 2021 brought no respite from the orca onslaught. On April 2nd, near the Strait of Gibraltar, the yacht Colomba faced a terrifying ordeal. A pod of orcas repeatedly rammed the boat for over an hour, causing it to spin uncontrollably. The crew of 3 was eventually rescued, but the yacht suffered extensive damage to its rudder and keel. One of the most alarming incidents of 2021 occurred on May 21st, when 3 orcas targeted the Shangri-La, a 14.5-meter yacht, near Barbate, Spain. The attack lasted for 45 minutes and was so violent that it broke the boat's rudder shaft. This case stood out because it was captured on video, providing researchers with valuable footage to study the orca's behavior during these encounters. The summer of 2021 saw a continuation of these aggressive interactions. On July 9th, near the Strait of Gibraltar, the sailing yacht Moustique was surrounded by a pod of 6 to 8 orcas. The animals took turns ramming the boat's rudder, eventually breaking it. The crew of 4 had to be towed to port, their vessel rendered unsteerable by the assault. As the frequency of attacks increased, so did their geographic range. On August 1, 2021, an incident was reported off the coast of Plymouth, England, much further north than previous encounters. The 26-foot yacht Proteus was attacked by 3 orcas, sustaining damage to its rudder. This event raised concerns that the aggressive behavior might be spreading to orca populations beyond the Iberian coast. The attacks continued into the autumn months. On September 11, 2021, the yacht Smoose faced a harrowing encounter off the coast of A Coruña, Spain. A pod of orcas targeted the vessel for over an hour, causing significant damage to the rudder and keel. The 4 crew members were eventually rescued, but the incident left them deeply shaken. As we moved into 2022, the pattern of attacks showed no signs of slowing. On March 3, 2022, near Gibraltar, the sailing yacht Albaran Champagne was struck by 3 orcas. The impact was so severe that it broke the boat's rudder, leaving it adrift. The crew of 3 had to be assisted by the Spanish Maritime Safety Agency, highlighting the ongoing danger these encounters pose to sailors in the region. A particularly notable incident occurred on May 4, 2022, near the Strait of Gibraltar. The high-speed ferry Jet Ceuta, carrying 217 passengers and 22 crew members, was surrounded by a pod of orcas. While ferries had generally been considered too large to be at risk, this encounter challenged that assumption. Fortunately, the ferry's size and speed allowed it to continue its journey without sustaining damage, but the incident raised concerns about potential risks to larger vessels. The summer of 2022 brought more frequent and intense encounters. On July 31st, off the coast of Spain and Portugal, the 12-meter sailboat Neve was attacked by a pod of 5 orcas. The assault lasted for over an hour, with the orcas repeatedly ramming the rudder until it was completely destroyed. The 2-person crew had to be rescued by the Portuguese Maritime Police. Their voyage abruptly ended by this unexpected marine aggression. As the attacks continued, they began to attract international media attention. On August 19, 2022, the yacht Marianne was targeted near A Coruña, Spain. The Orca's assault was so aggressive that it not only destroyed the rudder, but also caused damage to the hull. This incident was widely reported in the press, bringing the issue of orca attacks to global attention and sparking debates about maritime safety in affected regions. The final months of 2022 saw no decrease in orca aggression. On October 28, near Viana do Castelo, Portugal, the sailing vessel Smack encountered a pod of orcas that proceeded to ram the boat repeatedly. The attack lasted for 45 minutes and resulted in significant damage to the rudder and steering system. The crew of 3 was eventually rescued, but the incident left them traumatized and their boat in need of extensive repairs. As we entered 2023, the frequency and intensity of attacks showed no signs of abating. On January 16, 2023, off the coast of Barbate, Spain, the yacht Miro faced a prolonged assault by a pod of orcas. The attack lasted for over 2 hours, with the animals taking turns ramming the rudder and hull. The 3-person crew managed to radio for help and were eventually towed to safety, but the incident left their vessel with extensive damage. A particularly alarming encounter occurred on March 3, 2023, near the Strait of Gibraltar. The sailing yacht Albaran Champagne was targeted by a group of orcas that displayed what appeared to be coordinated attack behavior. The pod split into 2 groups, with one distracting the crew at the bow while the other focused on damaging the rudder. This level of apparent coordination raised new concerns about the evolving nature of these orca boat interactions. Spring 2023 brought no respite from the attacks. On April 21st, the catamaran Himbertoni was assaulted by orcas off the coast of Tarifa, Spain. Despite its larger size and dual-hull design, the catamaran suffered significant damage to both rudders. This incident challenged the notion that larger or more stable vessels might be less vulnerable to orca attacks. One of the most recent and widely reported incidents took place on May 17, 2023, near the Strait of Gibraltar. The yacht Swiss Kiss was attacked by a pod of orcas for over an hour. The assault was so severe that it not only destroyed the rudder, but also caused the boat to take on water. The 4-person crew had to be dramatically rescued by helicopter, with footage of the rescue making international news and bringing renewed attention to the ongoing issue of orca attacks. These documented attacks represent only a fraction of the reported incidents. According to data from the Atlantic Orca Working Group, there were 207 reported orca boat interactions in 2022, up from 141 in 2021. As of August 2023, there had already been 350 reported interactions, indicating an alarming upward trend. The increasing frequency and intensity of these attacks have left sailors, scientists, and authorities scrambling for explanations and solutions. Dr. Renaud de Stefanis, a researcher at the Coordinating for the Study of Marine Mammals, CIRSE, has been studying these incidents closely. He suggests that the behavior might have started with a traumatic experience involving a single orca, possibly a collision with a boat, which then spread to other members of the pod. Other experts like Dr. Jared Towers, a researcher with Canada's Department of Fisheries and Oceans, propose that this might be a new form of play behavior that has caught on within the orca population. However, he emphasizes that more research is needed to understand the motivations behind these encounters fully. There are also concerns about potential environmental factors. Dr. Ruth Esteban, a researcher at the Madeira Whale Museum, has suggested that changes in the marine ecosystem, possibly due to climate change or overfishing, might be altering orca behavior in ways we don't yet fully understand. In response to these incidents, authorities in affected areas have implemented new guidelines for sailors. The Spanish Ministry of Transport, Mobility and Urban Agenda has issued recommendations including turning off engines, lowering sails, and keeping hands off the wheel when orcas approach. The idea is to make the boat as uninteresting as possible to the animals. Some regions have taken even more drastic measures. In July 2023, the Spanish government implemented a temporary ban on sailing for vessels under 15 meters in length in certain areas off the country's northwestern coast, a region particularly affected by orca attacks. Despite these precautions, the unpredictability and intensity of these attacks have left even experienced sailors feeling vulnerable on the open sea. The incidents have had real-world impacts beyond individual encounters. Some sailing races have altered their routes to avoid orca hotspots, and insurance companies are taking note, with some considering raising premiums for boats in affected areas. As research continues and new incidents occur, crucial questions remain. Will these attacks continue to escalate? Can humans find a way to coexist peacefully with orcas in shared marine environments? What can be done to protect human lives while also respecting these intelligent and powerful marine predators? The ongoing saga of orca attacks serves as a stark reminder of nature's unpredictability and power. As we continue to venture into the oceans, we must recognize that we're entering a world where we are not the apex predator. The true rulers of the sea are out there, and recent events have shown they're not always as predictable or benign as we once believed. It's crucial to note that while these incidents are alarming, they're still relatively rare considering the amount of maritime activity in these waters. According to the International Maritime Organization, there are over 50,000 merchant ships operating internationally. When compared to this number, the orca interactions, while increasing, still represent a small percentage of overall maritime activity. However, the trend is undeniable and concerning. As we move forward, it will be crucial for scientists, sailors, and policymakers to work together to understand this phenomenon better and develop effective strategies to mitigate risks while respecting marine life. For now, the message is clear. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember that when you set sail, you're entering their territory. The oceans hold wonders beyond imagination, but as these incidents prove, they also harbor dangers that demand our respect and caution. The story of orcas and their interactions with boats is far from over, and each new encounter adds another chapter to this unfolding maritime drama. If you found this video informative, then make sure to check out the next one shown on screen.